Racism was more dangerous in a time where, you walking outside and you got a Ku Klux Klan member who look at you, and because you black, they tell you they had black codes where you had to have a certain level of respectability, otherwise you was considered like your presence was illegal. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't look a certain way, you couldn't act a certain way, or the police would literally be able to pull you over and lock you up or beat your ass. These were black codes, right? So that's like the epitome of racism. You dig? Like, I don't like that person because they have black skin. I believe they cursed and I'm going to treat them a certain way, right? So when you look up black codes, racism existed in this country and it still does exist. But that's very overt racism. It's like extreme, like, you black, I don't like you. No reason I don't like you is because you black. That's it. You dig? Now, the new racism is completely different, and it's not as important as classism, right? Like, classism is understanding the difference between how the structures go into economics of middle class, right, poor class, right, and a wealthy class, right? Because when you talk about who running the world, you're talking about the wealthy class, right? Now, there's different things to break down when we demonstrate in this conversation. You dig? The different demonstrations in this conversation is when you talk about racism, you have systematic racism, which are things that are inherently embedded into the fabric of practices that automatically treat certain people a certain way. It's automatic. So it's not something you have to think about. It's not something that person has to practice. It's automatically inherent in that. So let's say hospitals, right? So we look at a statistic during this time where they talk about, abortion, things of that nature, say that black women get worse treatment in hospitals, right? They say get worse treatment. And this is a statistical true fact that, you have a higher increase of death rate between black mothers going in there trying to have a baby. So, that's inherited systematic racism. The system of it is racist. When a black person go in there for a certain, treatment, they think it's not as bad. So you don't get the same level of treatment, right? So these are not things that have anything to do with feelings. These have anything to do with opinions. These are just the facts of statistics. So it's not even I agree with this or I disagree. I'm just laying out the facts. You dig? So when you got systematic things, right, where the prison rate is higher for black men, or you have increased rate of, harsher criminal sentences for black men, these are just facts. These are systematic things. You dig? So even when one judge may become a judge, he's inheriting the practice of being a judge, and then the system is so inherent that even if you're not racist, you're working in a racist system, right? So now we go to the banking system, right? Where you talk about, because in the clip you talk about, well, listen, the average person may be feeling like they need to blame somebody for their situation instead of realizing that it's their mind, and that we have a lot of resources to get us over regardless of where the institutions and industry are. So he said it's not the white man's fault. So I wanted to dissect that for a minute, because you got to understand what people are saying when they say certain things. Historically, when a person says that it's the white man's fault, right? Now people say, oh, you a hotep. Even though hotep has nothing to do with the definition of what people describe it as, a connotation attached to saying that this group of people blame the white man for everything. The reality is he did the exact same thing, but he did it in a manner to where it doesn't put in this excuse factory to where people consistently produce excuses for why their individual reality is not where they want it to be. And that's where I agree. But when we look at, okay, let's say, well, the monetary system is messed up. The banking system is messed up because it keeps the lower class in the lower class. When people say the white man's fault, they're not talking about Joe. They're not talking about Bob or Steve that down the block that you may see on the regular. One that's working at the hot dog spot. One that's a vendor at the movie theater. They ain't talking about them. They ain't got the intellect to be able to comprise a system that can keep people keep people down You understand me? Don't try to take all that pride. Like we know you ain't got that kind of intellect. First of all, you giving yourself too much credit. You did. We not talking about you. We not talking about you. We not talking about the individual walking down the street. You ain't got like chill, B. You ain't got that kind of power. Like we know you ain't got it like that. We know you ain't got it like that. So when we say the white man, we talking about a system. We talking about founders of a system specifically. But this is how we branded the founders of a system. We know you ain't like that, B. You can barely get yourself to $100,000 a year. You can barely, you know what I'm saying, create anything. You barely create a website, man. We know you ain't the one that's keeping me down. Like, you ain't got that kind of power. You feel me? So I just want to, I don't want to be like, sometimes when you do that, you empower people more by making them more than what they are in real life. And you really ain't, they ain't like that. Come on, blood. Like, they ain't like that. So it's like, no, we ain't talking about you, man. We talking about the founders. We talking about the founders and the propagators and those who have privileges because of what was propagated and founded. You dig? Now, this is different. So when we look at and we say the white man, what we did is we grouped the brand of the founders because historically the founders were white men. So when you talk about feminism was a fight against the white man because when they talked about patriarchal systems, they was historically talking about European systems, Greek systems, Roman systems, white American systems, right? So even white men and women today are fighting against the same system. So when they call a brother Hotep, well, ain't y'all fighting against the same system of patriarch that y'all say that we blaming everybody else for? So, but you have to understand, because a lot of times the nuances of perspective is lost when people are explaining these things, because ain't nobody got time to be all explaining all of this. I just got time today. So we talking about the founders, the families, the propagators. You understand me? Those who receive the privilege of it, those who continue to push it, right? Those who make sure that it manifests and continue to live. We're not talking about the average person. So when a person has in their mind knowledge of a system, the statistic of a system, the fabric and the history of the system, then they say, oh, like imagine, let's say, like when we talk about when a person says black men do this, let's say in the culture, right, in hip hop, and they say, well, niggas in hip hop propagate misogyny and sexism and all these different things against women. Not every black man that's a rapper, because there's a lot of us. Not every black man. You ain't talking about every black man, but what you talking about, right? The dominant force, the ones that control it, that are at the top of it. You talking about them, right? And then even that can get shaky when you really want to get down to the bottom of it, because we already know it's the small hats and those who control the back end. But anyway, I digress to that point. My whole point is, in that particular regard, is the language, because one person can use the language and they gonna get defensive. So I seen that post was by Pompey. He got a Bitcoin page, and he make it defensive when the person say, white man, we not talking about you. You happen to inherit a privilege of a system, but at the same time, there has been white people that fought against the system because they realized that it was classism and not racism, that you want to keep the poor white trash down here. And a lot of these systems were created to keep the poor white trash down at the same time. You did. Come on, man. You gotta really look at the history of how these things was going. See, black people always had a higher literacy rate, a higher financial literacy at the same time, right? We weren't the white trash. The ghettos were the white trash. That's where that came from essentially first, right? The Irish, theirs was the ghettos, right? And that's how they treated their peoples. Historically, when you go past what you know as modern day slavery, and you go look at who were the scientists, the mathematicians, the engineers, the farmers of the world, you're going to go back to societies such as, the Moorish Empire. You're going to go back and you're going to see beautiful, brown, copper, melanated people producing and doing things, right? So when we fast forward today, and specifically in the context of America, because when you say of people blaming the white man, you are specifically having a conversation with black America. Because this phenomenon does not exist in the same capacity across the planet. Those who utilize that specific language when they say the white man are black Americans. Right? Throughout movements of the 1930s, when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, Noble Drew Ali, you understand me, was giving breakdowns about nationality, economics, business, right? Who is the devil, who's not the devil, things of that nature. And they was breaking the shackles off the minds of our people, going directly to the bottom class. And they were saying, you know, the reason you in this situation is you know who's running this game right now. And if they're being 100% honest and truthful, they're going to say the white man, right? Now, this is not something that somebody can disagree with. These are just facts. I don't know if everybody disagree, let me know, because I don't know any black man that created Jim Crow, black men that created black codes, redlining. You know what I'm saying? Like, these are not things that we created. So when historically we like who shipped the drugs in, things of that nature, you know, Ronald Reagan and they CIA tactics in the hoods in the 80s, we're not going to be like, well, no, black men did this, I don't like them. No. The brothers was giving them education. They say, well, yeah, white men did that. So, yes, they said it in a broad term, but even during that time, the average white person didn't even have literacy. So we weren't talking about just average person. These people were victims of the fabric of it as well, because the founders kept them subservient, you understand me, and made them, because they were in such a low subservient position, you know, like this is what you got to really understand. This is how they got, like, those white people that are racist, they are the bigger victim, not the bigger, but they are some of the biggest victims of the classism, because the elites at the top said, man, we ain't got to give them shit, but we just got to make them think that everything is the black man's fault, right? And that they're better than somebody else, right? Because as long as they feel like their worst enemy is that black man over there, we can be billionaires running the game. And all we have to do is turn them into cattle for our system. We're going to make messed up banking laws. We're going to make messed up, you know, education systems. We're going to do it all. But they don't realize that they're in the same game. They just feel like they're a little better emotionally or whatever. We're going to do a couple things. We're not going to let the black people get no home loans. So we can create suburbs and home ownership. So therefore they have a generational head start of black people in America before things like social media come. Okay, we going to do that though, but we still don't rock with them, because historically the elites haven't treated the lower class good at all around, right? They are as much a part of this system, and they don't realize it. And this is why, these are just facts, people. These are just facts. This is why, you know, you have historical leaders that were so dangerous, because they were able to unite under a common feeling of oppression against a system of elitism. You did. So basically, you know, when you can get, you know, Marcus Garvey had conversations with the KKK, right? You know, there was white militias that would start up against the government, because they say, well, this is not the original, this ain't the Constitution, y'all keeping us down. They didn't like the banking systems and the banking cabals of the world as well, because they say, no, y'all trying to keep us down, right? They revolted against all of the monopolization of America when it was supposed to be a democracy, and then they realized that this ain't no democracy, this ain't real. So, but what happens is, when you get these people to start seeing eye to eye that it's not a racism issue, it's a classism issue, they start linking with each other like, bro, we got the same enemy. At least for now, we got the same enemy. You're right. Because my kid ain't going to get a higher class of living because the way that they created the system. You did. Now, this changes the minds of the people. This changes the minds of the people. They like, oh, snap. We can actually unite on that. That's commonplace. It's like even today with all this Democrat Republican thing. When you polarize people and put them in two different parties, sometimes people in those parties agree with each other, but they never have conversation because they believe that they're supposed to be at war with each other. That anything that comes out this side, that's left and that's right. This person may agree with conservative viewpoints, right? This person may have these new progressive ideas, But this person might not be with that. But I'm a Democrat. I got to be on Democrat. If I'm gonna just shut up. You did. This person, well, I'm a Republican, so I ain't gonna agree with that part. Now you have people that treat it like a religion. They have faith and belief in it, even though that they have different biases that they don't agree with. And see, now that's dangerous. That's dangerous because now you don't allow the truth to dictate your voice and your expression and how you make decisions. You allow the party you're a part of to do that. You allow the party. Somebody say, y'all conscious brothers. So I want to dissect something because this is the dangerous thing about society. What does conscious brothers mean? Somebody commented on YouTube, they say, y'all conscious brothers contradicting yourself. What does conscious mean? It just mean to be aware. So what's the difference between somebody who got a degree in political science and they talk about the realities of the politics of America? Do you consider them to be conscious? Or is it something that you put on certain groups of black men that don't go with the narrative that you fed? You understand me? So now you try to weaponize the idea that a person has awareness in reality by utilizing the word conscious, which is another. Now that right there could be a subtle racism. Because how is having an intellectual conversation being weaponized? Well, this brother has a degree of intelligence. So just by the fact that you speaking out, right, and speaking on things in high level terms, oh, you one of them hotep conscious brothers. Damn. I've never heard nobody say that about a white man that has a degree in political science that considers himself to be a philosopher of sorts. So we weaponize just the idea of black men having conversations openly and just thinking and intellectualizing and having a perspective on reality. Y'all conscious, bro. What the hell does that mean? That's weaponized against us so that you don't become one of the ones that think. You could have used the word, you critical thinkers. You know what I'm saying? You could have used words like that, but you have to be careful. And this is why I talked about egregors. Because people try to use that so you don't become conscious. So if I can demonize anybody who talks like that, you're going to be like, well, I don't want to talk like that. They're going to say, I'm hotep. They're going to say, I'm conscious. What are you talking about? They saying you aware? What they saying? But see, when you're not smart enough to come back with a point that's intellectually superior, do you want to demonize a person for having a critical thought process because it makes you feel insecure on the one that you currently have? Come on, man. I'm just a thinker. I grew up in Oakland. I'm just a thinker. I just think. That's it. I use my mind. You can't weaponize using your mind. Now that's you got to be able to understand the way that they try to position this. You dig? So, anyway, let's get back to it. So, now when we look at it, man, we look at the reality of where we at. I do not believe in making... It's one thing to look at the founders of a system, the propagators of a system, the privilegers of the system. It's another thing to make excuses for why you are where you are. This is where the message gets the most important because ain't nobody gonna save you but you. See, it's one thing to look at and know the reality of the world. I would rather study to find less excuses. Having knowledge don't mean it makes excuses for you. And this is what people try to make it seem like, well, he talking about the history of the world. He must be making an excuse and feeling bad for himself. Absolutely not. I mean, I was born with this beautiful brown skin. You understand me? This amazing mind of mine. You feel me? I ain't got no excuse. I was born with the greatest privilege on the planet Earth, and that's me being a black man in my own body, being myself. That's how I look at it. Take it, leave it, or love it. You dig? You can hate it too, but you know you still gonna get the greatest view. So at the end of the day, we don't have excuses, specifically in this time. Now, you can go to different points and periods and timelines of America, and this is the most dangerous thing sometimes out of that rhetoric of not excuses. When we say we don't have excuses, we're saying those same systems don't have the same power that they used to have anymore. So this generation of young white children can be like, y'all ain't got no excuses. We got social media. We got Amazon. Yes, you're talking about this. What you're saying is that the systems don't have the same power to stop you if you have a mind to do for self and to educate yourself. But did our parents have that same? Did our great-grandparents have that same? It was not the same for each generation. Some had it worse off. So we're talking about a newly revised perspective on where we are in this time period. So this generation has less excuses. All you got to do is have righteous demands for your life and a will to go do it and get it done. So you can't put that blanket over the whole last 100 years. No, this is new, first of all. And if you acknowledge it's new, then you have to acknowledge that the system, systematically, number one, gave one race an advantage because they call it a race. Dr. Francis I'm saying that all wrong. Francis Cress Welsing talked about it. I think it was George or Dick Gregory that talked about it. Like, if you are in a race, or was it no, that wasn't him. That was Dr. Claude Anderson. It is a race. Somebody has to be in first place. Somebody got to be in last place. You dig? Who's in first and who's in last? Now, when I teach, y'all, I don't teach by excuses. Y'all know that. I study, so they ain't got to make excuses. So when I study the Asians, they get education, they work together, they do certain things. Yo, let's take that blueprint and implement it over here because we've been lost from our natural integrity. That's what I teach from. Yo, white people do it like this, Jews do it like this. Man, Native Americans doing it this way. I study how every person go about getting their wealth. And that's what I taught. So I don't teach from excuses, but I don't have to ignore history in order to, teach people to not have excuses. I don't have to ignore history. I can say the white man created a banking system that was bad. I can say that the white man did this, that, and the third, and still teach you regardless of that fact. We live in 2022 and we can get it done. You dig? Regardless. Because what that conversation is trying to do, yes, a lot of black people, I'm going to tell you this, and this is something y'all need to really understand. And this is like, I need you to really understand this because y'all be really getting caught up in that Democrat-Republic shit. But some of the Republicans be doing better than the Democrats because they be operating from a different place. Because they don't operate from blame the white man in the sense that they feel like they have pressure against them. They say, no, I'm going to be a part of a system and win. Good, bad, or indifferent, how you feel about it, a lot of them, they refuse to even acknowledge the truth. And what it does is it doesn't allow them to experience the trauma of what you believe you're going through from being black. I'm going to run that back again. I'm just intellectualizing with y'all, man. We just having a conversation. It doesn't allow them to experience the trauma you think you're going through from being black. You did? They say, no, all I got to do is work hard and I can win. Now, is it 100% win rate? No. But I can tell you something about that mindset. That mindset is better than the defeatist mindset, the believing that the world is against you. All you want to do is identify what the world is, identify the weaknesses, the strengths, identify the resources, right? The issues, the problems, the solutions, but you turn it into a solution-based mindset. When you learn about, listen, I done went deep into my study, so a lot of people, they be trying to introduce new knowledge to me, and it ain't new because I understand the fabric of the way this world works from a metaphysical level, right? From a contractual level, from the treaties, from the documents. I understand the way this world works when you talking about really breaking it down. I get it. But I still won't let the knowledge that I know become an excuse for me not to grow. And I can tell you what's powerful, that if ignoring the past is not necessary, but I can tell you this. It is dangerous to study, to involve yourself in trauma. This is some people do it. You will study the traumas that have happened, and what you do is you place yourself into a loop to re-experience it. You activate it in your DNA. You go looking for it. Nah, I go looking for power. Yeah, that's cool. We don't went through horrendous things in our bloodline. And see, the thing is, when you feel connected to your ancestors, it is a such thing as feeling what they went through. Because, you know, your blood is electricity. Your blood is a library, is information. But as much as you can tap into the trauma, you can tap into the power. So recently in my last podcast, I said, I don't have to look outside America to find greatness. A lot of people didn't understand it. They didn't catch that. What are you saying? You ain't got to look outside America. Am I dissing the diaspora? Am I dissing the experience of the Egyptians and the Africans? No, what I'm saying is this. I don't have to look outside America. America is actually great. Do you know how much we did while we was here? Do you know how much we've done? Like, it makes me feel good to think about what we did in the last 100 years. The last 400. Because I see, man, if you want to see some warriors, you can't show, y'all can go look at all of the Shaka Zulu warriors in South Africa. You can go look at, you know, all of the stuff that happened all around the world. But you can't show me no finer warriors than the ones that had the spirit to rebel against their masters and fight wars against them and cause insurrections and risings consistently. Man, I studied some ancestors that was so cold. I said, damn. And you talking about young brothers. Man, I got so proud and was so happy. I said, damn, I don't even need to go outside of America to feel this good. See, some people think they need to go to Imhotep. They need to go to the pyramids. And don't get me wrong, I think everybody should make that pilgrimage to the pyramids. But our copper melanated people here in America, man, we done some of the most amazing things on the planet.